Well, hello there. Let me just start by asking you something. Would you like to witness a certified, battle-hardened World of Warships noob attempt to rank all the Tier 10 tech tree cruisers? If yes, then congratulations, you're clearly in the right place. If not, well, you're still here, so let's pretend you are. Now, before we dive in, we've got a little problem on our hands. There are 18 tech tree cruisers in this game, and unless I wanted to completely destroy my sanity trying to condense all of that into a single video, I've decided to split this into two parts. That's right, this is a two-parter, because balance, pacing, and mostly because I'm kind of lazy. So what are we doing here exactly? Well, we're looking at what actually matters when you're playing these ships in the real game. I'm talking HP pools, number of guns, range, torpedoes, AA defense, top speed, and of course any special consumables that make a ship feel like it has cheat codes. So yes, it's still a casual ranking from someone who's probably been destruct one too many times by a random Petro volley, but it's also based on stuff that actually matters when you're loading into a match, not spreadsheet theory. And just like before, we're sticking to the classic tier list setup. S tier, A tier, B tier, and C tier. For part 1, we've got these 9 brave, beautiful, or sometimes barely floating cruisers stepping into the ring. Japanese Yodo and Zhao, hailing from America, Worcester, and Des Moines. Then we have the German Hindenburg. And how can we forget the Russian Petropavlovsk and Alexander Nevsky, finally finishing off the list with classic British Minotaur and Goliath. Some of them are legends, some are mid, and some just make you question why you even started grinding this line to begin with. Alright, enough warm-up. Let's hoist the anchor, slap on our tier list hats, and start judging these cruisers like a bunch of keyboard admirals with nothing to lose. Part 1 begins right now. Alright, let's kick things off with the Yodo, a ship that looks like it was designed by someone who thought, what if we gave Minotaur a caffeine addiction and made it allergic to armor? Now, when you first glance at this thing, 150mm guns with 6 turrets and 3 barrels each sounds absolutely cracked. That's 18 barrels of HE spam at 18 kilometers, and you're thinking, wow, that's a floating machine gun. And yeah, in theory, that's true. But in practice, you're basically lobbing confetti at targets and praying they stand still for long enough to notice their ship is on fire. Now, don't get me wrong, Yodo can do some serious work in the right hands, especially if you're kiting and farming from the back with spotting help. But the ship is built like wet cardboard. 55 kHP is not bad for a light cruiser, and because it's Japanese, your citadel is basically a floating hit me sign. 34 knot speed and a 9-second rudder shift does help with dodging, but again, you gotta play Yodo like you're trying to stay out of everyone's divorce. Distant, quiet, and not making any sudden moves. Now let's talk torpedoes. 16 total with 4 launchers. Sounds wild, right? Defensively though, Yodo does bring some toys to the party. It's got defensive AA that scales over time, fighter planes and a submarine radar, which is kind of neat, especially with subs being everywhere these days. AA rating at 87 is actually respectable, but don't expect to be swatting planes out of the sky like Des Moines. This is more like mildly annoying them while hoping they mess up their drop. So where does that leave Yodo? Honestly, it's a B tier ship. It's got solid range, fun military guns, some nice utility, and it can farm from a safe distance. But as soon as someone looks at you funny, especially a battleship or a stealthy cruiser with AP loaded, in randoms it's okay, in competitive, not so much. You're gonna have to work really hard to make Yodo shine. Next up, Zhao has been around for what feels like a decade and a half, and yet somehow she still slaps harder than half the cruisers that came after her, and I don't say that lightly. Let's break it down. 203mm guns, 4 turrets, 3 barrels each, which means 12 shells of spicy sushi grade HE every reload. And unlike Yodo, this thing isn't trying to pelt you from downtown like a fireworks show. No, Zhao is a mid-range brawler. 16.2 kilometer range isn't exactly long these days, but that's the point. You use your stealth, close the gap, and then light people on fire with HE like you're making barbecue out of battleships. And if you really want to ruin someone's day, just switch to AP and catch a broadside cruiser. 1 salvo and boom, citadel delivery. Now let's talk torpedoes, and oh boy, Zhao is stacked. We're talking 4 launchers, 5 torpedoes each, so 20 fish in the water. And these aren't those low-speed, low-damage participation trophy torps either. Now sure, the AA defense is only 75, And I hear you carrier mains might start salivating when they see a Zhao alone on the flank, but it's got defensive AA fighters and a sub-spotting consumable too, which makes it surprisingly well-rounded for an older ship. 44.9 kHP might sound low, but this is a ship that survives by not getting spotted, not by tanking like a Hindenburg. You're running at 34.5 knots with a 7.7 second rudder shift. Plus, it has something no spreadsheet stat can measure: vibes. Like seriously, this ship feels good to play. It's got that old school swagger that says, yeah, I've been power crept, but I'm still gonna burn your battleship to the waterline and leave before your damage control even comes off cooldown. And that's why Zhao, in my book, is S tier. She's aged like fine sake. Maybe not the flashiest girl at the party anymore, but she'll still show up, put in work, and remind every newer cruiser why OG ships should never be underestimated. Ah yes, the Worcester, or as I like to call it, the Freedom Gatling gun of TX cruisers. Because if there's one ship in this entire game that looks you dead in the eye and says, no, you don't get to play the game today. Seriously, Worcester doesn't fire shells, it uploads high-velocity freedom into your soul every 3 seconds. She's packing 152mm guns, which might sound a little underwhelming at Tier X, where everyone else is throwing bricks or lava, but hold up, there's 6 turrets, 2 guns each, and if you so much as blink, this thing's already dumped another entire salvo of high explosive chaos onto whatever poor destroyer thought it was safe to cap. With a 16.7 kilometer range, she's not sniping from the border, but she's definitely farming in comfort from mid-range islands, and the shells come in so fast and so often that you'd think she runs on overclocked Red Bull. Now yeah, no torpedoes, so if you're looking for a panic button when a battleship rounds the corner, you're out of luck. This ship isn't made for those oh no situations, it's made to make other people have them, especially carriers. Because her AA defense is a whopping 91, which is basically the naval equivalent of get off my lawn. Like if you're a CV and you see a Worcester pop the FAA, it's time to reconsider your target, your plans, and maybe your career. Air denial is that ridiculous. With 45.4 kHP, she's got just enough health to take a couple hits, but don't get too comfortable. She's still a light cruiser, and she's allergic to battleship AP shells. So unless you want to become the latest devastating strike highlight, stay moving, play near islands. Speaking of radar, yes, she's got radar, defensive AA, and hydroacoustic search, which makes her one of the most annoying ships to deal with if you're a destroyer, a sub, or just anyone who doesn't enjoy being spotted and set on fire every 5 seconds. So yeah, the Worcester isn't a jack of all trades, and she definitely has her weaknesses. No torps, fragile hull, and if you overextend without a plan, you're going back to port faster than a Shima spotted by radar. But if you play her right, she's one of the best support cruisers in the game. She ruins CVs, bullies DDs, and makes the map feel just a little smaller for everyone else. I'm locking her into A tier, no question about it. She's not the most versatile ship, but in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, or at least someone who understands the sacred ritual of hiding behind an island and pressing left mouse button repeatedly, she's a complete menace. Ah yes, time to talk about the OG American monster, the Des Moines. Aka that one cruiser responsible for more traumatized destroyer mains than radar itself. If you've ever tried sneaking into a cap just to get instantly spotted, melted, and sent back to port in under 30 seconds, there's a solid chance this ship was involved. The Moines is like that grumpy old man at your neighborhood BBQ, brings a lawn chair, parks it behind an island, and starts blasting non-stop while muttering about kids these days. Let's break it down. 203mm guns, she's got 3 turrets, 3 guns each, so that's 9 barrels of pure HE chaos, with probably the fastest reload rate you'll ever see on heavy cruiser guns. Seriously, she reloads faster than some light cruisers, and that means if you're caught in her firing arc, you're not just taking 1 hit, you're taking 20 by the time you realize you're in trouble. The 15.8 kilometer range isn't exactly long-range sniper status, but let's be honest, you don't play Des Moines to be subtle. You find a rock, you anchor, and you delete destroyers, farm battleships, and basically make an entire cap zone your personal no-go zone. Now, no torpedoes, because she's American, and the only torpedoes we like are Freedom and Overkill. But who needs torpedoes when you've got that reload, backed up by 84 rated AA defense that shreds planes like it's 1944, and someone just launched a squadron of B-29S directly at you? Aircraft carriers? Not a problem. She's not quite Worcester level no-fly zone, but she's a close second with defensive AA, radar, and standard utility consumables. She's basically the Swiss Army knife of area denial. In terms of durability, she's sitting pretty at 50.6 kHP, which is actually solid for a cruiser, and with 33 knots top speed and rudder shift time of 8.6 seconds. So yeah, sure, she has some weaknesses. Her arc is floaty at long range, she's not exactly great in open water fights, and her concealment isn't amazing, but in the right spot, with the right support, she controls the flow of the battle better than most cruisers ever could. This one's a no-brainer, S tier for me. The utility, the firepower, the consistency. The Moines is a staple of high-tier gameplay, and still one of the most terrifying ships to see sitting behind an island, with full HP and her radar off cooldown. Just don't try to push her unless you enjoy losing half your health before your turrets even turn. Alright, next up, Germany enters the chat with the Hindenburg. And no, this one doesn't burst into flames on first contact like the airship it's named after. This one's built like an angry fridge, with guns strapped to it, and a crew that's permanently grumpy. When you load into a game and see a Hindenburg on the enemy team, you don't panic, but you do mentally prepare yourself to deal with that one guy who's gonna kite from the edge of the map all game, lighting you on fire while tanking half your team's damage without even flinching. So let's start with the guns. 203mm caliber, 4 turrets, 3 barrels each, giving you a lovely 12-gun broadside of pure German consistency. That means long-range HE spam, decent AP for cruiser fights, and reload that isn't lightning fast but reliable enough to always keep something burning. The 17.8-kilometer firing range puts her up there with the long-range kiting crowd, and she definitely lives her best life when she's angled and slowly drifting away while chucking shells every 6 seconds. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Hindenburg actually comes with torpedoes, and not just Gimel-medic ones. She's got 4 mounts with 4 torps each, 16 total, and while they're not the longest range torpedoes ever, they're sneaky enough to ruin someone's day if they forget you have them. It's always hilarious watching a battleship try to charge a Hindenburg, thinking she's just a mid-range kitter, only to eat a full spread of spicy German disappointment. 84 rated AA defense means she's no slouch against carriers. She's got 51.9 kHP, which is tanky for a cruiser, especially when you combine it with her excellent armor scheme that trolls a surprising number of incoming shells. Add to that her 31.5 knots top speed, and sure, she's not sprinting around the map like a light cruiser, but she's quick enough to kite properly and reposition when the flank starts to fold. So where does that leave her on the list? Honestly, Hindenburg doesn't blow your mind with anything flashy. She's not popping radar and deleting destroyers, she's not sniping from space like Yodo, or being some ultra stealth assassin, but she's damn solid at everything. And in the right hands, especially on an open water flank with decent cover and a bit of support, she can outlast and outgun almost anything that tries to take her down head on. For me, that's an easy A tier. Maybe not S because she doesn't dominate in any one area, but she's one of the most consistent, forgiving, and annoying to kill cruisers in the game. And in World of Warships, that makes her a solid pick nearly every time. Now, let's talk about one of the most emotionally draining cruisers in the entire game, Petropavlovsk, or as most of the Common community calls her, Petro the Fortified Bunker. You ever pull up to a cap thinking you've got the crossfire advantage, then realize that Petro is sitting behind an island angled at 45 degrees with only the gun barrels peeking out? Yeah, that's when you just hit reverse and mentally prepare to get farmed. This ship doesn't feel like a cruiser. It feels like the developers got drunk, took a battleship, shrunk it a little, slapped on cruiser classification, and called it a day. So here's the real story. Petropavlovsk is armed with 220mm guns, and she rocks 3 turrets with 3 barrels each, giving you 9 guns total that just hurt. And I don't mean he spam limitering from a safe distance hurt, I mean apps slap you through your angle and ruin your day hurt. With an 18.5 kilometer firing range, she's perfectly comfortable taking mid to long range fights, but Petro isn't just about sitting back, she's built to brawl, and that's where she really thrives. No torpedoes though, not even the little panic launches you can forget about until it's too late, but honestly, she doesn't need them. Her strength lies in her armor, gun angles, and the way she just ignores your existence while deleting half your health pool. Pair that with her 83 rated AA defense, which won't make her a no-fly zone, but at least makes carriers think twice before yeeting a full squad at her, and you've got a cruiser that actually feels pretty well-rounded in a very aggressive Soviet way. Now let's talk survivability. 55.8 kHP, which is one of the highest for a cruiser, and she feels every bit of that tankiness. A 32.5 knot top speed isn't bad at all. She can reposition fast enough to support team eliminators or flex to another flank, but the 12.1 second rudder shift time is definitely not helping when you're trying to dodge incoming shells. She turns like a fridge on wet tiles. But Petro's real magic trick is radar. Not the longest duration radar in the game, but just enough to catch destroyers trying to sneak caps, and once spotted, those 220mm guns will have DDs sweating bullets. Combine that with defensive AA, and she's got the tools to support her team while also anchoring a flank, all by herself like she owns the ocean. So, what's the verdict? Listen, Petro may not have torps, she may not have the rapid-fire insanity of something like a Worcester, but what she does have is sheer intimidation factor, firepower, and the kind of survivability that lets you pick stupid fights and somehow live to tell the tale. You put this ship in the hands of someone who knows how to angle and use cover, and she becomes a fortress. For me, this one's an easy A tier. But when it comes to just raw power, consistency, and match control, she's a nightmare to deal with in the right hands. Now let's talk about Alexander Nevsky, the ship that looks like it was designed by someone who had a grudge against fun but still wanted to make something kind of respectable. She's sleek, she's slippery, and she's allergic to pushing into literally anything. And I mean anything. You sneeze on this thing in close quarters and she folds faster than Ferrari's race strategy under pressure. On paper though, she sounds like a dream. 180mm guns, 4 turrets, 2 barrels each, so we're talking 8 shells per salvo, with solid AP performance that can really surprise broadside cruisers if you actually land your shots. And with a firing range of 19 kilometers, you could literally shoot at people from another zip code while sitting at the edge of the map, sipping tea, like you're judging the rest of us peasants trying to hold cap. And if you're one of those players who uses your minimap more than your actual screen, you're gonna love her. Now, here's the catch, and it's a big one. She has torpedoes. Sure, 2 mounts with 5 torps each, but unless you're one of the 5 people on the planet who actually pushes in Nevsky, her AA defense sits at 83, which is decent, but not top tier by any stretch. She'll swat down planes in a group, but don't expect her to solo defend an entire flank. Survivability? She's got 50.9 kHP, which is on the better side for cruisers, but the issue isn't the health, it's the armor. If a battleship even thinks about you too hard, you're probably taking Citadel damage. She's got the classic Soviet Citadel that lives above sea level like it's trying to be invited to an air show. And when things go wrong, they go very wrong very quickly. That said, 36 knots top speed is actually insane, and she uses that speed to kite like a demon. You're not catching her unless she wants to be caught, and with 11.5 seconds rudder shift, she handles decently for her size. So yeah, I'm putting her in the B tier, not because she's bad, far from it, but because she's very specific. She demands a certain playstyle, a very passive one. She's fast, she's long range, and she can farm like crazy. But you need space, vision, and a chilled out lobby to actually make her work. Now, if cruisers had personalities, she's the definition of high risk, high reward, or if you're like me, mostly just high risk followed by a very dramatic trip back to port. Armed with 10 152mm rapid firing guns, Minotaur absolutely melts destroyers and light cruisers that dare peek out from their smoke. She's got the kind of DPM that could give a Des Moines anxiety, and her AA defense, it's 93 literal no-fly zone. But let's not pretend she's perfect. She's got only 43.3 kHP, which means if you sneeze in her direction, she might already be on her last heal. Speaking of which, yes, she does have a super heal, and that's a huge plus, but that's only helpful if you survive long enough to actually use it. You've got to be insanely careful with positioning, because unlike other cruisers, Minotaur doesn't forgive mistakes. Show broadside once, even for a second, and you're gone. Then there's her consumable situation. You can pick between radar or smoke, and both have their uses. Smoke lets you farm damage safely like a rat in cover, while radar turns you into a destroyer hunter on crack. But if you take radar and get spotted, oh boy, you better hope RN Jesus is in a good mood that day, because there's no escape. She does have 16 torpedoes, which sound great, but actually using them, That's usually a desperation play or a lucky ambush, not a consistent weapon. At 33.5 knots and a 10.4-second rudder shift, she's got enough agility to dance around islands and kite if needed. But again, one misstep and it's curtains. So, here's the thing. Minotaur's skill ceiling is super high, and if you're cracked at the game and know her quirks, you'll absolutely farm. But for the average player or anyone casually queuing up, she's a walking detonation flag. She's fun, flashy, and wildly punishing. So I'm putting Minotaur in B tier. She's not bad at all. She's just extremely situational, and unless you're confident in every move you make, right, now it's time to talk about the Goliath, which sounds intimidating until you actually try playing it. Like, sure, it's big, it's got huge guns, it's chunky with survivability and heal potential, but let's not kid ourselves. She feels like a brick with guns duct taped to it. Now let's start with the firepower. Goliath brings out the 234mm guns, 4 turrets with 3 guns each, and yes, the shells hit hard and they cause a ton of fires. But she's slow to reload, the shell arcs are meh, and if you're not farming damage from the safety of an island, you're pretty much just waiting for someone to dev strike you out of pure boredom. The heat damage is solid, but good luck getting consistent volleys when most of your targets are gone or repositioned before your next salvo even loads. And yeah, she's got torpedoes, 2 mounts with 4 per side, but with their short range, you're basically announcing to everyone that you're either panicking or trying to YOLO someone with your last 15k HP. Goliath torps aren't tools, they're prayers. Like sending a CV a LinkedIn request hoping he doesn't spot you while you try to reposition with your rudder still turning from 10 seconds ago. At 33 knots, she's not a snail, but she sure feels like one when the enemy team starts collapsing on your flank and all you've got is 20 seconds between salvos, no smoke, and a prayer. Her concealment isn't great either, which means most of the time you're seen before you're ready to fight. And let's just say that's never a great feeling when you're driving a giant floating warehouse. So yeah, she's got a lot of HP, big guns, and super heal, but in modern meta, where cruisers need to be agile, multi-role, and reactive, Goliath feels like she's still operating on a Windows Vista build. If you like playing artillery style from max range, and hoping the random queue doesn't punish you with triple submarine matchmaking, go for it. But for me, she's going in the C tier. She's not unplayable, she's just outdated, clunky, and honestly not worth the effort when so many other cruisers offer way more impact with way less stress. Well, there you have it. My completely objective, totally serious, 100% certified, noob-approved tier list, from the laser beam memes of Des Moines to the torpedo blender that is Zhao. We've seen everything from divine greatness to ships that basically just scream, please dev strike me now. Some ships impressed with their versatility, some had raw alpha, some had the agility of a brick in molasses, and of course, some just kind of showed up like that one guy in ranked who thinks rushing mid in a Minotaur is a great idea, and then asks for AA support when he's already half sunk. But if you thought this was juicy, hold on, we're only halfway through the buffet. We've still got another 9 cruises to go through in part 2, and let me tell you, things are about to get weirdly spicy. We've got burst damage monsters, torpedo memes, Dutch airstrike weirdness, and the ship that literally everyone forgot existed until it suddenly dumped 12k HE into their broadside. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell like it owes you credits, and get ready for chaos, disappointment, redemption arcs, and maybe even a surprise S-tier contender that you definitely didn't expect. Part 2 is coming in hot. Don't be late, I'll see you there.